Hello and welcome to my video. This is the first of my video series about effecting cancer remission deliberately. You heard right, deliberately, and without drugs and without medical procedures. I first heard of spontaneous remission of cancer when I was a child. My father often talked to his mates about an army friend of his who had been diagnosed with terminal cancer and given 6 months to live. 6 months was not a lot of time, so the man decided to fulfill his dream, hunting in Alaska. In a fire sale, he sold everything he owned, cashed up and left. 6 months of hunting went by, then 12 months, and finally, after 18 months, he'd had enough of hunting and little money left, so he returned to Australia. Then one day, out of the blue, he decided to visit his doctor. He told my father that on seeing him, his doctor jumped out of his chair and shrieked, thinking he'd seen a ghost. On conducting the appropriate tests, the doctor found no cancer in my father's friend. I was no doubt influenced by this man's story. When I was first diagnosed with cancer, I decided to go on a long journey, driving thousands of kilometres, meandering across Queensland and New South Wales on my journey south to Sydney. I justified my journey by saying to myself that I needed to do a meditative walk every day and travel only in the daytime. When I left the area, I cut my ties with all the people I left behind. It was an intuitive action, however, I felt that some people were bad influences. On my way to Sydney, over a period of around 5.5 weeks, I began to see many of my symptoms abate and disappear. In Sydney, I was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer with metastasis to the uterus, cervix, bowel and both lungs. I told my doctors that I believed I was going into remission, but they did not want to believe me. They judged from the medical tests that they had done and said that I was beyond treatment and had no more than a year to live. But by the middle of the following year, I had no more cancer. The second spontaneous remission was from esophageal cancer, in which I had developed a lump and could no longer swallow solid food. I was also suffering with intense flu-like symptoms and inflammation in the esophagus. This came after a friend of mine who also had esophageal cancer and died of it. I had again seen bad influences, firstly in my friend's life and then in my own. My friend had a person who was very close to her, but who sometimes distressed her with his words and actions. She knew that he was cheating on his taxes by sending money overseas, and she was telling other people. So he had motive to do her harm. But I did not understand how his and his friends' words and actions caused her to suffer with cancer. Things became clearer a few years later when I became sick. I was badly hassled, and when I resolved a significant issue, to my surprise, the flu-like symptoms that had plagued me for weeks vanished in about 15 minutes. I knew then that the lump would disappear, and over the next few weeks it grew smaller and smaller and did disappear. When I began to talk to others, including some doctors, about cancer, and what I suspected, I was shunned. Some called me a dangerous individual, while others ridiculed me. I was no doubt surrounded by many toxic people. In the following years, there were periods when I was hassled, and each time I had developed cancer. These occasions gave me the unique opportunity to investigate the matter further. I documented the problems and the hassles and the ideas that came concurrently to mind. And I used Vipassana or insight meditation to investigate what was going on in my body. The knowledge I gained helped me understand why the body develops cancer and how and why my body would clear it away. I then discovered how my body could be prompted to clear away the cancer faster. And I went on to discover how to stage manage my biology so that the cancer never develops. I also began to appreciate that a child, even an infant, can be affected by adversely affecting one or both of its parents or caregivers. I began to realize that the media was guilty of reporting bias. It is full of stories of people suffering and dying with cancer, but they never report about the tens of thousands of people who have had a spontaneous remission, and many of these cases have been documented by doctors. They also discuss the aggressive treatments, but never mention the serious side effects. In contrast to aggressive treatments, people who have had spontaneous remission, myself included, have had no treatments and no drugs. They neither followed any special diet nor did they take any alternative medicines or treatments. This may sound incredible to you now, but all you need is to know and understand some basic facts. I could give you the facts in a few minutes, but this is not enough because you need to see their significance. You need to have an aha experience for your body to move to spontaneous remission of cancer. Your biggest obstacle is the medical story that the body is a machine and that cancer arises from physical causes. With this story, you can be persuaded to believe that cancer can only be treated by physical means. I found that the body is purpose-driven and not a machine, and that cancer arises from how a person's body reacts when the person perceives ideas and is cunningly persuaded to accept those ideas as beliefs. This happens when a person is betrayed within the adverse conditions of toxic relationships. When I understood that my body created the cancer for a reason and that the reason was false, my body moved to spontaneous cancer remission. To illustrate what I mean, let's say you suddenly see a snake near your feet in the grass. Your immediate thought is danger. This thought causes your body to move to higher metabolism, enabling you to suddenly jump away. But when you realize it is only a garden hose with a striking reptilian pattern on it, you laugh and feel relief because your body has returned to resting metabolism. Likewise, the perceptions of possible harm to some part of the body causes the person to build a barrier, and the only barrier the body can build is a cell barrier. When the person realizes that the perception is erroneous, then the body will dismantle the barrier and clear away the excess cells. But my testimony and the experiences of other people whom I knew and who had cancer are more than anecdotal evidence, because I did a scientific investigation and found support for my findings in the work of medical research scientists. My conclusions can be logically applied to other people with cancer. It is strong evidence that shows that all people suffering cancer are caught in the adverse conditions of a number of toxic relationships, which they do not even suspect. This contributes to the similarities of cancer. However, the ideas and conditions of each person is different. So the type of cancer that they may develop, as well as the subtypes, are different. For instance, bowel cancer is associated with grief, and emotion is used in a very cunning way. But grief arising from a loss is different to the grief that we talk about when we say causing someone grief. These give rise to different reactions, and any added ideas such as it's been gutted, or it's been ripped into, or it's been ripped apart or ripped through may give rise to more differences, and all of these ideas affect the character of the cancer. But as the body does the job of clearing the cancer away, the different types doesn't matter. You only need the dawn of realization, an aha experience, to have spontaneous remission of cancer. I ask you to suspend judgment and view my videos with an open mind. I believe that if I share with you my many and varied experiences, my discoveries and my insights, and the scientific evidence that supports them, you will go on the same journey and may arrive at an understanding of your own. You will realize that your reactions were unnecessary, enabling your body to effect spontaneous remission of your cancer. It is that simple. In my opinion, the medical story is a gross betrayal of public trust for the sake of profits. The scientific evidence contradicts both the official medical story. It is not a cancer cure that they are hiding, but the truth about cancer. A truth so powerful, it will move your body to spontaneous cancer remission. And with a deeper understanding, never develop cancer again. And you don't need any medical or scientific education. I made most of my discoveries using insight meditation, and I have been criticized. But insight has been used by other scientists. Not all theories have been formulated after rigorous testing of a hypothesis in the laboratory. Einstein never worked in a laboratory when he formulated his theory of relativity. He did thought experiments and used his insight. This gives support to my method of investigation. The concealed threats and the deceptions of the foul gameplay are bad news. But the good news is that a humane person can stand alone and win against the odds. Realizing the truth is powerful because then they can reject the false ideas and affirm their own independent choices, which enable them to regain health. You will need to appreciate that you are facing a very treacherous enemy, an enemy hiding behind a mask. If you have cancer, then you have toxic people in your interpersonal environment, desiring either to control or punish you, or worse. If the foul games are played for revenge, to see the person die for some reason, then we are talking about first-degree murder. And the motivation of toxic people in all cases is to get pleasure from seeing your suffering. Most toxic people will appear benevolent, and they will try to appear indistinguishable from your steadfast relatives, your true friends, and your trustworthy work associates. They want to remain trusted and close to you, and they need to be trusted and close to you in order to hurt you. In addition to this video series, 2 of my other video series are necessary viewing for you if you wish to understand my cancer videos enough to deliberately effect cancer remission spontaneously. One of these video series is on the underlying conditions of disease. In it, I describe how concealed threats are made and how beliefs are manufactured. Cancer is a nocebo effect, which I describe in the other video series on placebo and nocebo effects. Here I also discuss the flu-like symptoms and inflammation in the esophagus. As for placebo for cancer, I cannot say that a placebo may never work, but I reject placebos for cancer. It is an aha experience that works to move your body to cease creating cancer, to reverse the changes and remove all the excess cells. That is, to effect spontaneous cancer remission. So please, postpone judgment and come on my journey. Allow yourself to experience my experiences. If you are humane, you will benefit from this knowledge. You can heal yourself. Thank you for viewing my video. I'll see you in the next video where I discuss the official medical story about cancer and the scientific evidence that contradicts and discredits it. It will also help you understand that my findings are supported by the scientific evidence. And here is an absolute delight, an adult kookaburra feeding its juvenile young at my window.